The world of manga and pop culture fans in general has experienced an almost unprecedented shakeup that started late last year in September 2023. This is all thanks to the release of Kagurabachi, Weekly Shonen Jump's latest hit created by up-and-coming manga superstar Takeru Hokazono. So, what's with all the hype surrounding this fledgling shonen title? Is it worth checking out? And what does the future hold, not just for Kagurabachi and its author, but for the state of manga and anime industry in general? Stick around until the end of the video as we answer why you should be reading Kagurabachi right this instant. But before we begin, allow us to tell you that there are going to be some spoilers for the first 6 chapters of Kagurabachi. With that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. What is Kagurabachi? Kagurabachi is a shonen manga created by Takeru Hokazono. It launched within the pages of Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump in September 2023 and has since become one of the hottest manga series around. As of this video, it's only been nearly half a year since its release, and fans all over the world are already clamoring for more of this upstart title. And to be completely honest, we completely understand the hype surrounding Kagurabachi. In a nutshell, Kagurabachi is an action fantasy romp that's right in the wheelhouse of what you'd expect from the home of One Piece, Naruto, and Dragon Ball. The story centers around a boy named Chihiro Rokuhira, the son of Japan's most famous swordsmith, Kunishige Rokuhira. At the beginning of the series, Chihiro serves as his dad's apprentice as they live a quiet rural life at their workshop. Kunishige is what you'd call an eccentric. The man has a tendency to be a bit of an airhead with a propensity for talking to his pet goldfish when they're off the clock. He even brought home 3 different colored goldfish out of the blue during one of his trips into town, much to the perplexity and annoyance of Chihiro. Inside their workshop, though, the man is an undeniable master craftsman who specializes in creating katanas, an art form that he strives to pass on to his son. Meanwhile, Chihiro is the more level-headed of the two. Think of him as more of a reserved kind of shonen protagonist who prefers to let his actions do the talking for him. His relationship with Kunishige echoes what you'd picture in your mind when you think about a teenaged boy and his father. In this quiet corner of Japan, they're regularly visited by Shiba, Kunishige's best friend. During one of these visits, he reveals that Kunishige was arguably single-handedly responsible for ending the Saitai War, a large conflict that happened before the start of the series. After having a hearty meal with the Rokuhiras, Shiba bids his farewell, and Chihiro tells his father that he's become determined to succeed Kunishige in the family business. His father tells him that to become a swordsmith is to bear the weight of the lives that your creations might take, a task that Chihiro welcomes with firm resolve. Right after that, Kunishige reveals to his son that the weapons he created to end the Saitai War are sitting in their basement, 6 special swords deadlier than any other weapon in their world. And this is when Takeru Hokazono turns the dial way up to 11. Just as soon as Chihiro makes that proclamation and Kunishige encourages his son, the series goes for a time skip set 3 years and some change later. We discover that Tokyo is now ruled by the Yakuza, as a group of slick, hardened criminals execute and torture a group of freedom fighters inside a warehouse somewhere in the city. It's also revealed that there's an even more powerful, shadier group above the Yakuza, an organization only referred to as Hishaku. Plus, the series introduces us to the fact that magic exists in this world as well, as it's used by a Hishaku agent to torture the last remaining freedom fighter. Here, magic is known interchangeably as either sorcery or necromancy. And ultimately, we find out that Chihiro, rather than growing up to be a swordsmith as he declared a few pages ago, has become a swordsman instead. Shiba meets with him on the train to Tokyo, and they eventually take down the Yakuza who had just killed the freedom fighters. At this point, Shiba has taken on the role of both informant, confidant, and mentor to the 17-year-old Chihiro Rokuhira. Amidst all of this, we get a glimpse of Chihiro's skill as a swordsman, with his katana exuding energy in the shape of the same goldfish that his father took home all those years ago. Even more, it turns out Shiba's a sorcerer as well. And that's all just in the first chapter. The Kagurabachi train doesn't stop there either, as fans witness the revelation that Chihiro has taken up the sword to avenge the death of Kunishige some 3 years ago at the hands of a group of Hishaku sorcerers. After taking down the master swordsmith, the assailants then proceeded to steal the 6 powerful swords from the Rokuhira's basement. Even more interesting, however, is the fact that the katana Chihiro uses is a 7th special sword that Kunishige made that not even members of the Hishaku know about. So you can see how Kagurabachi has managed to grab the attention of fans all over. Yes, it's a given that we're getting an action fantasy series here, but that barely scratches the surface of this budding title. Takeru Hokazono infuses the usual tropes we see in shonen manga and anime with a captivating dose of revenge fiction, not unlike the seminal manga series Lone Wolf and Cub by Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima, or, say, Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. It has an entire arsenal of great characters. In his search for his father's killers, Chihiro crosses paths with other interesting figures inhabiting the world of Kagurabachi, such as Hinao, one of Tokyo's preeminent informants privy to information about the underworld, and Char, a curious girl who comes from a clan who has the ability to regenerate from any physical injury. Not all of these individuals are friendly, though, as we fans get to witness Kagurabachi's rogues list of deadly antagonists, from guys who use sorcery to conjure Daruma-shaped bombs to grotesque assassins who can create copies of themselves using earth. Of course, we can't overlook how Hokazono-sensei portrays the main character of the saga. With Chihiro, we're not getting a one-note character that rotely fits the mold of shonen stereotypes that came before it. Sure, he might be the silent dour type, but unlike your typical Uchiha Sasuke or Vegeta, Chihiro is clearly portrayed as an empathetic, caring person bound by the love and concern he feels for his friends and family just as much as revenge. Then there's Shiba and Kunashige, who, for the most part, provide a nice contrast to Chihiro's serious demeanor. Characters like this aren't new to manga, anime, and pulp culture in general, but the heft of each of their backstories and the mystery surrounding them add a certain depth to these characters that make the series all the more interesting. The point is, Kagurabachi has no shortage of amazing characters that are brimming with potential. Yes, we're going to honestly say that with 20 chapters under its belt, the series still has a long way to go to reach the same pedigree and heights as some of the other great manga series that came before it. But the way it's going right now, we can't deny that Takeru Hokazono is pushing all the right buttons for Kagurabachi to eventually become an all-time great. Kagurabachi's balanced storytelling. One of the things that stood out the most, at least to us when we first set our eyes on Kagurabachi, is Hokazono's way of providing readers with a balanced experience. By that, we mean the author is able to maintain a fast pace with every installment of Kagurabachi, all the while drip-feeding fans with details about its world and overarching narrative. Take the very first chapter in this series, for example. All it took for Kagurabachi to establish the main character's personality, relationships, and antagonists is a well-placed time skip right at the midpoint of the said issue. After that, all bets are off as we get treated to some fantastic fight scenes and glorious depictions of violence that can make even the most trope-worn fan feel alive again. All the while, Hokazono-sensei gives his readers bits and pieces about the world of Kagurabachi with every installment. With the first chapter, we discover that not only does sorcery exist in this version of Japan, but that Shiba himself is capable of using it too. And if you're one of the lucky people who went into Kagurabachi blind, with not even a pitch or summary to entice you beforehand, the revelation that Chihiro's quest for revenge is fueled by his father's death is simply a joy to experience for the first time. From there, we gradually learn more aspects about their world with each chapter, whether it's the introduction of Genryoku, the life force that allows characters to perform amazing feats of physical and magical prowess, the revelation that Cha, being a member of the Kyunagi clan, has the ability to regenerate like Marvel's Wolverine, or the explanation that this world's version of Japan historically uses swords and magic as their primary self-defense tools. If you ask us, Hokazono is adept at finding that sweet spot between the golden age of manga's uber-immersive, drawn-out form of storytelling with the current age's breakneck pace, which makes it a perfect series regardless if you like to take the scenic route or you like to quickly cut to the chase. Kagurabachi wears its influence on its sleeve. Like all other great manga and anime series that came before it, Kagurabachi wears its inspirations on its sleeves. From the get-go, you can easily tell that Hokazono-sensei takes his cues from a couple of recent heavy-hitting series, namely Kimetsu no Yaiba and Jujutsu Kaisen. The way Hokazono illustrates Chihiro's swordsmanship and fighting stances provides us fans with mouth-watering eye candy by way of thick, dark brushstrokes on Chihiro's goldfish-shaped Genryoku that contrast with the characters' and settings' thin lines. And speaking of contrast, we're not exaggerating when we say that Kagurabachi contains some of the most visually striking action scenes you can find in comics, regardless if it's manga or not. Having said that, you won't be wrong to compare the kind of blood-pumping scenes you find in Kagurabachi with something like Jujutsu Kaisen's gory battles. Simply put, violence on the manga page rarely looks this good. Of course, since we mentioned Gege Akutami's masterpiece, we'd be remiss if we didn't say that the inclusion of sorcery, or necromancy, within the world of Kagurabachi is inspired by JJK's primary element. Then there's the fact that, at its core, Kagurabachi is a revenge tale, a theme as old as storytelling itself. Whether it's the classic tale Japan's own Ryo, or Vinland Saga's Thorfinn Karlsefni, tales about getting payback, when done right, are always a treat to behold. And the most impressive part? Kagurabachi doesn't feel like a ripoff. Hokazono-sensei, much like the greats that came before him, manages to take things that are already familiar and provide a twist that's all his own. As the saying goes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. And boy does Hokazono prove that he's no mediocre talent. How Kagurabachi became a huge hit. As of this video, Kagurabachi has only been around for 5 months, with its chapters in the early double digits. However, it quickly became an overnight sensation thanks to none other than the wonders of the internet. Particularly, the World Wide Web has allowed anyone with a stable internet connection to access manga and anime anytime, anywhere. Kagurabachi's success can mainly be attributed to Shueisha's very own digital platform, Manga Plus, which releases new installments of Weekly Shonen Jump online a mere few days after the physical magazine is placed on the racks in its native country. This allows modern titles like Kagurabachi to become more easily exposed to audiences not just in Japan, but throughout the entire world, especially in the West. Add the fact that we're living in a world where word of mouth via social media allows for quick and easy dissemination, and you have a recipe for what makes Kagurabachi such a hit right now. In fact, Kagurabachi has already garnered a significant amount of buzz even prior to its first chapter's release, and that's all thanks to Shueisha's online promotion of the then-upcoming title, along with their Next Wave initiative highlighting upcoming titles coming to the world's preeminent manga magazine. This successfully hyped up fans all over the world and resulted in Kagurabachi becoming viral on social media platforms and online message boards. Now, we can't overstate this. Kagurabachi's sudden surge in popularity through these online platforms might just be the thing that won't just turn the Hokazono-created title into an all-time smash hit classic, but will inevitably change the way the manga industry works. As of now, the hype, adulation, and readership around Kagurabachi are made up primarily of Western audiences. Yuta Momiyama himself, Shueisha's editor-in-chief, has taken note that Kagurabachi's success is an indicator that there's about to be a huge shift in the way the manga industry operates, thanks to the success of Kagurabachi and another hit manga, Kaiju No. 8. It used to be that Western audiences had to wait months, if not years, for any given manga or anime series to get picked up by a publisher outside of Japan, localized and translated, and then released either in physical monthly magazine or collected tankobon formats. Furthermore, the manga industry used to wait for any given series to gain enough traction and popularity within Japan before publishers like Shueisha or Kadokawa even started to shop them overseas to find a foreign publisher who would release translated versions of their titles. Or, conversely, before a foreign publisher takes notice and picks up an already popular series. This is the case even for all-time best-selling titles like Dragon Ball, Naruto, and even the GOAT, One Piece. It literally took these titles decades before Western audiences were even made aware of their existence, and a few years more before they became the pop culture giants that they are today. And this is what makes Kagurabachi such an industry-shifting anomaly. Its success was almost instantaneous, and that's thanks to a wider audience that can experience it through platforms like Manga Plus. The implications of Kagurabachi's success are huge without a doubt. Having a much larger audience right from the get-go means that the manga industry will not have to treat its native Japanese audience as a sort of control group that will either determine the global release or cancellation of any given series. For titles like Kagurabachi, the audience is already there, ready and waiting for where Shueisha and Hokazono will take it. Perhaps the only question that remains right now is whether Kagurabachi will have the same staying power as the likes of One Piece, Dragon Ball, or Jujutsu Kaisen. Or, much like a lot of other creative endeavors in this world, it might turn out to be a flash in the pan. We personally hope it's the former. Why you should keep an eye on Kagurabachi. All things considered, it's only a question of when Kagurabachi is going to get picked up for an anime adaptation. At the rate it's going, it also wouldn't even be a surprise if the series became one of the best-selling manga of all time sooner than later. If you're a fan of good storytelling that features gradual reveals and escalation, shonen tropes combined with more mature themes of revenge and beautifully executed violence, or if you simply like looking at pretty pictures, then Kagurabachi is for you. Now, imagine once we get to see characters like Chihiro, Char, and Shiba jump out of the black and white pages of Weekly Shonen Jump and onto 4K resolution screens in color. That would, no doubt, be a good day for manga and anime fans throughout the world. With its growing popularity, fingers crossed that they get an anime adaptation in the near future. What do you think of Kagurabachi? Are you liking it so far? Do you think it's going to be a successor to the likes of One Piece and Dragon Ball? Let's talk about it in the comments section below. And for the latest in manga and anime content, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be the first to see them. We'll catch you in the next video.